Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to interview a very important person whom I have had a chance to meet. I have had the wonderful opportunity to work with him as well. He has been a senior trainer at the King's Learning for the past 8 years. As a part of his role, he has been training the trainers, he has designed course curriculums, and he has given very useful feedback to a number of people. So in many ways, he is certainly an inspiration. He also has taught a number of students at colleges. I really wouldn't know the exact numbers, but then uh, he has taught plenty of batches for college students, and he has been extremely wonderful at that. While I didn't have the opportunity to observe his classes, my mother did, and she said that it was absolutely brilliant. So she really was very glad that she had the opportunity to observe his class. And I would also like to add that he is Cambridge Celta certified trainer. And in addition to that, he also loves music. He sings. He participates in a lot of jam sessions. I have had the opportunity to listen to a lot of his music. And yes, having said this part already, he's a great trainer. It's my pleasure to welcome Mario to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Mario.
Thank you, Balaji. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And more importantly, thank your mom for her extremely kind comments on observing my classes. Yeah, it's great because she's also a very highly experienced teacher. And, it's an honor for her, I mean, to hear that, she liked my classes. So please convey my thanks to your mom as well.
Sure, I will. So let me start the interview with one of the questions from some of the teachers, one of the most common questions, actually. When it comes to training college students, there are students of different proficiency levels, unlike a language school, wherein we have students of same proficiency in a class. Their class is intermediate or brilliant. But here, when it comes to a college, we have students of different proficiency levels who are together. How to make sure that we cater to the needs, learning needs of all the students?
That's an excellent question. It is very challenging, Balaji, unlike, a language training school where, the students are given a evaluation test and then they are divided into each level, start on the CEFR level. But in a college, it is per class. So in a class, you would find students ranging from, beginner to, maybe upper intermediate levels. Now, what happens is, I think, in my opinion, the key is first preparing. Your preparation is key. So I consider the first day of my session as the most important because that's where you find out who are the students who are pretty strong and who are the students who aren't strong. So I basically depends on the strength of the students and I mean the number of students in the class and I start with a small introduction where I get talking to them, try to understand, most importantly where they come from, and that helps me build on the rest of the program for the remaining days of the program. So I understand, know who are the students who are strong and who are the students that would require some additional help. Because in a college, very importantly, students come from various backgrounds, various mediums, to be honest, not necessarily only English medium schools. They come from various mediums, and a lot of them are very shy to, open up in college. And we teach English as a skill, not as a subject, which requires a lot of practice. So first and foremost, what I do is I normally use the first day to get to know the students. There's something like not I won't call it exactly a need analysis as such, but I use it in the form of an introduction. I ask them to introduce themselves, ask a few questions about what they like, what kind of movies they like, what kind of food they prefer, which places they have visited, and so on. So it helps me build from there. And during the classroom sessions, I ensure that each and every student is given an equal opportunity to practice in the class. So I follow something that, see, I'm talking from my opinion. I can't comment on what other trainers' teaching styles are all about, but I follow one thing called less is more. What I mean by that is I choose one topic, a small topic, give them an input, and then make sure that each and every student in the class participates. Let's take for a simple thing. Let's take a conversation. Let's say I give them a scenario. So you're traveling in a bus and you meet a stranger, and the stranger wants to get into conversation with you. So how would you respond in English? So we first brainstorm. We write on the board what are the possible scenarios for a conversation, and I get students out in pairs or in groups to come forward and participate in that activity. So that particular small activity, I would encourage each and every student to participate. And the weaker ones are more handheld. Basically, they would talk to me instead of talking to another student. I felt that works well because they don't feel shy. And let's say, for example, if two students are talking to each other, and maybe one student is not up to the level of speaking, the other student would not know how to move forward from there. So what I do is, let's say if somebody is maybe at the beginner level, so they would do the role play or with me. So I can put them in the way by encouraging them, asking them a few questions, and so on. So they also get encouraged to speak. And most importantly is encouragement. You have to encourage the students, and you have to tell them it's okay to make mistakes. It's very important that they understand it's fine. I can make one mistake. I can even make 100 mistakes or 1,000 mistakes. It's okay. It's no problem. It's a skill at the end of the day. Today you may speak really well, but tomorrow you may get a difficult topic where you may not speak adequately well. That doesn't define you as a good or a bad student. So that is very important. That connect is very important. And what happens is when the students understand that it's fine, it's okay, we can make mistakes, it's fine, then they come forward. And that's when I'm able to get each and every student in the class to participate. It could be a student who's very strong with English, and it could be a student who's really weak with English. They would come forward and participate. It's very important to let them know that it's fine. Don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are there for you to learn from. The more mistakes you make, that means you're learning. If you don't make any mistakes, that means you've not attempted at all. So I keep repeating this through the program. And so students understand. They understand that, yes, in this class, we can let loose. We can, express ourselves. It's fine if we make mistakes. Nobody's going to criticize us. We are all here to learn. And that's I feel something very important that we should do in a class in order to make sure that all the students' needs are catered to. It's not just board work and lectures as such. It is going around the class and making sure that each and every participant, irrespective of the number of participants, most of the time college classes are between 50 to 60. Engineering colleges, they're like 120 in a class, and you have to make sure that each and every student participates. So one thing I follow, like I said earlier, is less is more. So do one topic and get everyone to participate. So that's where you are able to give enough time and enough opportunity to both the strongest students and the weakest students.
Wonderful. So there are multiple questions that you have answered while you were talking about this, which one of which is the handling more number of students when it comes to this huge numbers when at colleges. You did tell us that you can make the learners with lower levels of proficiency to practice with the teacher, and the rest of them can talk to each other. So that way, at the same time, all the 120 students or the 60 students do get to practice. So you are involving everybody, and everyone is speaking at the same time. And another factor that you touched upon was the aspect with making this this class useful for everybody, irrespective of their background in terms of whether they have had English as a uh, whether they're good at it or whether they are at the beginner level, how to make sure that uh, everyone gets to practice just by keeping the objective of the lesson simple and more repetitive. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I would actually like to ask you, what is the biggest challenge that you have actually faced when it comes to teaching college students?
I think one of the biggest challenges is their attention span. Because most classes that we do are all 2 hours or 3 hours long because it's activity based. So keeping their attention is pretty challenging for me because being young, being teenagers, they get distracted very easily. So one of the challenges is keeping their attention, how to keep them attentive at all times. So what I normally do is again it's my personal, whatever I'm telling you, Balaji, is from my personal opinion. There could be arguments, there could be difference of opinions. Whoever hears listens to our conversation. But what I normally do is when I find that students are losing their interest, I just take a break from teaching the lesson and get into more of extracurricular activities that they do, something like a hobby. So I just ask them, okay, how many of you are good at singing, or how many of you are good at cooking? Where did you learn it? Or which movie did you watch? Who's your favorite actor? So on. What book have you read? And stuff like that. I normally give them a little bit of a breather for about 7 to 10 minutes to get back their attention. Because otherwise it becomes very challenging. See, again, when we teach colleges, we're normally doing it during the course of their day. Sometimes they have to stay back after their course is over. Very, very less time they need to stay back for these sessions. But a lot of times we do it during the course of their day. And before I could get into a class, they've already done 2 or 3 lectures in their respective subject matter, and they're a bit tired by the time they get into our sessions, and each session is about 2 hours long. So I feel it's good to give them a small breather. uh, Ask someone. I've had students come up and do an imitation of me. They've done a mimicry of me, and I've sat at the back and basically me watching me take a class. So it breaks the monotony and gets the students up and running. Then we get back into the session. So I think keeping the students' attention is one of the challenges that I face. Apart from that, I think getting them to participate initially, uh, they become very shy because since we teach it as an activity, right? It involves a lot of practice, and that's the expectation that is set on the first day. When I enter this class on the first day, I tell them that it requires a lot of practice. It's just like you want to become a musician or a sports player or even a chef. It involves a lot of practice. So this program is not lecture based. You're not going to sit here and listen to a lecture, but you are going to practice. Each and every student in this classroom will practice whatever activities are being taught in the class. So that expectation is set. So a lot of them feel shy because even in school they've not been given the opportunity. That's very important. I think even in school they've not been given an opportunity to come in front of the class and speak, because it's mostly reading off a book. A teacher comes, delivers the lesson, writes it on the board. Students copy it down, go home, memorize it, come back, write the exam, and then forget about it in due course. But I think we've all been through that. We've all been
Yeah.
through that. So
True.
in course of but now teaching English as a skill is something that they're going to take back home and use for the rest of their lives. It's not something that they can go home, memorize it, come write an exam and forget it. It's as good as learning a sport or learning a musical instrument or learning to sing. That skill is going to be with you for the rest of your life, and it involves a lot of practice. And we as trainers, have to ensure that equal opportunity is given to everyone. I think another challenge is where they feel very shy to come forward and speak, mainly because they do not know. They normally think about what other people are talking about them. When I ask, okay, why are you nervous? No, I feel that somebody may be criticizing me. So that's another expectation that we set in the class. That nobody is here to ridicule each other. We are all here. I always mention that we, not you, but we. I include myself as a learner as well, because I feel, these are all again my personal opinions. I feel that, as a teacher, you are the first learner. If a teacher is not willing to learn, then you don't have the capacity or the what can I say, the reason to teach. So you should be the first learner. So I normally say that even I will learn with you. We are all here to learn, and I've learned a lot from the students. I've learned a lot from engineering students. Tech stuff. I've learned a lot about the diet from the nutrition department. A lot of things I've learned which I've not know, which I didn't know before. So we're all here to learn. That's one expectation that we should set. And initially, yeah, the shyness to participate, their attention span. These are challenges that we normally face in the class.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I certainly would agree with the points that you mentioned. Uh, when it comes to the learning from the students part, I know definitely I've learned from lot of things from nutrition students. I
Oh
have
yeah, yeah,
had the chance to notice that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would
well,
have seen my diet,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So, well, on the other hand, I when when we are breaking this ice and making them comfortable, helping them to come out of the shell, there is this thin line of difference a trainer needs to be absolutely aware of, at least as far as I know, which is being friendly with them and actually being friends with them. Uh, how does one do this in an effective way?
That's very important to know who's boss, but at the same time, being approachable. Uh, so I think it all starts with setting expectations at the beginning. You know, uh, when you set expectations, the students know what is going to happen during the course of this program. And another thing is being approachable. Where you tell them, yes, it's fine to make mistakes. You have any doubts, please ask. Even if you ask the same question 100 times, I will answer you in the same enthusiastic way 100 times. But I normally tell them this, but please don't leave the classroom not asking a question, having a fear that, we would scold you or something like that. Uh, and I think that plays a very, very important part. Telling them that if you have questions, please ask. It's immaterial the number of times. If you don't understand a concept, don't leave the room without asking a question, clearing that doubt that you have. So that's number one. The second is, building a good rapport with them, finding out what they like, what they dislike. They're all teenagers. So normally I like to do a small background on what they like, movies, books, music. So I come back home on the first day, basically, and go through a few things. Like the most common things that students like are movies such as, Vijay and Ajit's movies, BTS, the Korean band, uh, One Direction, another teenage band, a certain few books. So I normally come back and do some homework on this. I listen to a few BTS songs. I watch a couple of in due course I watch a couple of movies that they've mentioned. I read a few books. So that connect, I normally have that. I try and establish that connect with the students. Oh, how many of you like BTS? So, a few students will start raising their hand. How many of you like this song? So they know, okay, even the trainer knows about BTS, the trainer knows the song. How many of you have read this book? Or, how many of you have watched Vijay's latest movie? What do you like about it? I like this and I didn't really like this part or something like that. So students know that, okay, he's on the same page, he or she, the trainer, I mean, is on the same page as us. And that's when you're being friendly with them. That's when they feel, yes, the trainer is a friend of ours. But at the same time, you know, I expect that whatever the work given to them, whatever the work I've given them has to be done. There is no two ways about it. That's when you show that, yes, I'm your friend, but at the same time, we work while we work and we play while we play. So there's no mixing the two up. If there is an activity, if there's homework given to you, you have to prepare it and come. I would not proceed unless you complete your homework. If there's an evaluation that has to be done, you would seriously prepare for the evaluation. When your name is called out, you would come to the front of the class or on the stage, wherever whatever you have to do, and you would uh, speak or do your writing evaluation. There is no excuse for that. And of course, punctuality and attendance. So normally, if they are absent, there is a policy that the college policy that if they're absent for a few days, they don't get to write the evaluation. That's there are a lot of colleges that have that policy, and there are colleges that have a policy where if you come in late for a couple of days, then you're going to have to get a letter from the head of department. So all these things I follow very strictly. So that's the line I feel. Yes, I'm approachable. You can come and talk to me. You can laugh and joke with me. We can discuss, English movies, books, Tamil movies, BTS, whatever maybe. But in the classroom, when there is a activity going on, you will participate. You have to participate. There is no two ways about that. So I think it all starts with setting expectation. Going back, it all starts with setting expectations from day one. These are all the things I set in initially. That yes, we will have fun, but not at the cost of the training program. I will certainly not deliver lectures. I would definitely make it more interactive to each and every one. But we're not going to have fun at the cost of the program. That's where students understand. Okay, yes, during the course of whatever 2 weeks or 3 weeks the program goes, they start to understand. Yes, I can approach the trainer at any time and ask questions. But when the trainer gives us certain amount of homework or activity, he expects that it gets done. There is no excuse saying, no, I didn't do it, or I had no time. So that's the line that we have to tread on very carefully. So I ensure that that line is not crossed. That is basically the difference, where the students would interact with you, would respect you, would understand. Yes, in this class, this is the expectation. Because if I've also noticed, if we lose that focus, if the students lose focus in the trainer, it's very difficult to get their attention back. If they feel that the trainer is not on the same page as them, they tend to lose a lot of focus, and it becomes a little difficult to control 60, 70 students in a class.
True.
So that's that thin line that we have to tread very carefully, that I feel, yes, this is what I need to do in the class.
Um, I would also like to know, when we have 60 students who are practicing speaking, particularly when we have a speaking lesson, when 60 participants are talking to each other, the decibel levels do go high, and we are doing it during their actual college hours. And it is certainly going to disturb other classes. Even if 60 people speak in a low volume, it is it is going to be it is going to definitely increase the decibel levels. How do we make sure that people do speak, the students do speak, but then we are not letting it affect other classes?
See, normally all 60 students would not speak at the same time. The classroom activities that I normally plan for is a lot of pair activities, or in groups of 4 or 5, or sometimes individual activities. So these are the activities that will help the class, like you said, decibel level be low. If we get all 60 talking at the same time, it becomes very difficult, number one, to keep the volume low, And number two, more importantly, to observe and listen to each one and identify what mistakes they're making in order to provide feedback at the end. So generally, when I plan a lesson, if it's a speaking lesson based on the curriculum or whatever we're teaching, I normally plan it in such a way that I get them to work in pairs or in groups, and very importantly, that they come in front of the class and speak.
Oh.
They come in front of the class. So what happens is the other students are given an instruction that they are observers. I ask the other students to observe and note down important points. Note down what they did well and where you think they need to improve on. And I always tell the students that you can learn something from the pair that's talking before you. So you can make note of that. So generally, I don't let all 50 or 60 students speak at the same time. Unlike, in a normal classroom where there are 10 or 12 students, they're divided into groups of 4s or 5s. They all speak at the same time. There you have enough time to, go around and observe. But when it comes to a college, firstly, another very important thing is the space constraint in a classroom. It's all benches and it's either 2 or 3 rows, and there's not much space for us to divide them into groups and let them sit in groups accordingly. So most of the time they are divided into groups, but they come forward in front of the class and speak. So the other students are attentive. They pay attention to what's going on, how these students are performing, and then I call upon in turn pairs or groups of 3 or groups of 4, depends on the activity, and then they come forward and they speak. Likewise, before normally evaluations are individual performance. So a couple of days before, when we practice for the evaluation, I always get them to come forward, and each individual would come forward and speak. So that goes on for about 2 days, because I give each one a chance, and then each one speaks for about a minute or a minute and a half. That's it. So that's how time is also very, very important. We have to make sure that, see, we're given a 2-hour session. We can't extend because we'd be eating into the other faculty members' classes. So we can't extend. So timing is very important. So normally, if it's an activity like, let's say, maybe a business introduction, like business networking. So for second years, there's normally business English that's taught. So let's say business networking. So they are divided into groups of 4 or 5, and they're given about 4 minutes. Each group is given about 4 minutes to present, and then there's one timekeeper who would basically, say time is up, time is up. So that's how students are given a chance, and each student. And the rules are that in that 4 or 5 minutes, each student has to speak. So they're also aware that they're bound by time, so there's no time wastage. And then before, each one's given a time limit and each one's given a role. And normally what I do is divide them into groups, get a group name, ask them to write down group names to make it interesting, and then I shuffle it and ask them to choose. Then 2 or 3 groups are chosen at a stretch, so they know who's coming first, second, third, and so on. So there's no time wasted. So the moment group 1 is done, group 2 is again ready to go. So time is also very, very important when planning activities such as groups and pair work. But at no time should we let all 60 speak, because that's when we will be in trouble, because they would disturb the other classes as such. But it's always good. One very important thing I learned while dealing with colleges, unlike a normal classroom setup, like a language school setup where you have limited number of students, 15 or 20, or I think somewhere between 15, 20, where each one you give them the activity and they are performing the activity simultaneously. That works there because it's a small crowd and most of them maintain silence. But in a college with 60 students, you can't get them to do that. If you get them to do that, you would not have time to go around and observe, and it'll be too noisy. So it's very important that they come in front of the class and speak. So when they come in front of the class, they automatically perform because people are watching them, and the other students also learn from them. There's an environment of learning there. Other students make note of how their previous group is performing, so that they can add on a few points to their performance. So it's very important that they come forward and speak. And one important reason why they come forward is to is to break them out of shyness, because apart from enhancing their communication skills, we also want to build confidence in them. Because a lot of times, we feel that students lack the confidence. They have the communication skills, a lot of them, but they lack the confidence. So coming forward, facing a crowd, and 60 is a crowd, if I may say so. And coming forward and facing the crowd gives them adequate. You can't reduce the nervousness and bring the nervousness down to zero, but we can reduce nervousness by a considerable amount by getting them to come forward and speak. First day, maybe they are very nervous, and then it keeps gradually reducing. And by the end of the course, they volunteer and want to come forward and speak. So during evaluations, the last 2 days, they would raise their hand, say, "Sir, I would want to go first. I want to go second." Uh, that's because of the practice that they have been through before the evaluation day, coming forward on the stage or in front of the class and speaking.
Wonderful. Well, Mario, thank you so much for your time and your wonderful answers. If there are a few things that I am taking away from here, then one of it is definitely uh, making the students work in groups, but not at the same time, so that they come to the stage, which helps them to get rid of the fear, but then not let the rest of the students just kind of sleep at that time, because that's what they usually do when we lecture. So when the four students are there on the stage speaking, then we have to make sure that the rest of the students are carefully noting down feedback for them so that they can share it. So that way they are also engaged in the class. And another point,
Class control. I'm sorry to cut you off,
yes,
but I
yes.
think class control is very important, Balaji.
Mhm.
And as a trainer, it's very important to move around the class, and observe, make sure that the students know the trainer is looking at me, and keep telling them to, indicating that they need to maintain silence. Uh, Unlike a lecture where you just stand in one place and speak and move. But since this is activity based, we have to move around the class and make sure that each one is paying attention while the rest of the, or while, one group is performing in front of them. So yeah,
Yes.
that's the gist
Uh,
of it.
yeah, class control for sure. And another important point that I got from what you said is getting the idea of what they like and use that as a context for some of the lessons, or at least as a part of it when we need to use some fillers to lighten the mood. Use that and take that to our advantage, and definitely drawing the line and telling them when you need to do something, you have to. But other than that, yes, we are going to have a learning that's not something boring. We are going to practice, we are going to work together, we are going to talk about things we enjoy. Uh, but then, yeah, we are also going to learn and enhance our skills, making sure that happens. I think the job of the trainer is done. I think these are some valuable takeaways that I have from your answers. Thank you so much for making time to be here and sharing these valuable inputs for us, Mario.
Thank you, Balaji. It's a pleasure being on your show and having to discuss this on your show. Thank you so much for having me in the first place.
My
It was a bit
pleasure.
of a
My pleasure.
surprise when you asked me, and then I was really excited to be on your show. I've seen your show, and I've seen the kind of people that you've interviewed, all highly experienced. And then I was very nervous. I was thinking,
Oh,
I'm not at these people's
well,
level, because you've interviewed people who are got a lot of experience. So thank you so much for thinking of me and having me on the show.
my pleasure. You are definitely one of the best guests that we have had. Thank you so much once again, Mario.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good night. See you.
Good night.